Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Abby and I love to read. For today's video, I thought it would be fun to go ahead and do a reading wrap up. I haven't done one of these since May. So we're gonna be doing May through July. Just a little spoiler alert, May and June, Abby read 4 books total. It was a bad month. It really was. There was a reading slump, but I think I'm out of it finally. So we have some really great ratings. I did find some really good 5-star books, and then we had some in the low 3s, which that's totally fine. Not every book I'm going to read is going to be one of my absolute favorite books in my entire life. I've got a mix of fantasy books, romance, and some really good page turners that literally just kept me hooked from the first page. So let's go ahead and get it. I have my laptop right here, so if you see me looking down, it's because I took notes, because one thing about me is once I read a book, it is in one ear, out the other. I don't remember anything. That's a lie. I don't remember a lot about the books I read. I just remember that I enjoy them. So if you see me looking down, it's just because she's not all here in the brain. Our first book we're going to talk about today is Kiss of the Basilisk. Now this is a reprint, traditionally published. It was originally called Split or Swallow, and I think they're making it into 2 books. So this is the first book. It is the Bloom edition with beautiful edges. That's literally what made me buy this book, nothing else. I did not know the premise before I went in. So this tells a story about Temptress, but she goes by Tem. She's a young woman in her village, and they have to compete for the prince's hand in marriage. But before they can do that, they have to go through training with the basilisks, which are like shifters. They're part snakes, part human. They can be full snakes. It's a lot. Tem gets paired with the serpent Prince Caspian, and I was willing to risk it all for a snake. I'm not gonna lie to you on that one. He obviously gets trained and he's trying to help her win the hand of the prince, but she's falling for the prince and also for Caspian at the same time. I was perfectly fine with this being a why choose, because why have one when you can have both? Now the plot is we learn some personal things about Tem and her family and the royal family, about what happened between the war of humans and the basilisks. She has a very personal connection to them as well. She uncovers a secret about the royal family, and ultimately she has to choose between her growing feelings for Caspian and her loyalty to like the humans in sort of way. I rated this book a 4.75 stars. It was so fun. There wasn't a lot of world building happening. You're kind of just thrown into the story. The spice, 5 out of 5. Top tier. It's just spice as hell. I read this for our Bad Romance book club, where we just try to find like really cringy, really bad romance books. Probably the best book I read so far out of that, minus all of my GM Berry books that I discovered through there. But yes, this was a 4.75 stars for me. The next book is problematic just because the author has said some things, but personally for me, I love her writing style. I'm going to continue to support her writing style and the way her books make me feel. But we are going to be talking about The Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. I could not tell you when this book came out anything that was about this book. I don't feel like the marketing for this book was like explained enough. It was just like, here's a book that Jessa wrote. Take it. The cover truly doesn't tell you anything. Like there's little hints and stuff once you finally read the book. But follow Georgia Carter. She's pretty much a human lie detector. She returns to South Carolina after being sent away to go to school in England after her dad's sudden death. There are reasons that Georgia was sent away. She's very estranged from her family. She has 3 other siblings, and just to really confront a lot of unresolved trauma for her past. But like I said, she's a human lie detector, so she reads body language immediately, and people hate that she does that in her family because she can just call it out as she sees it, because 99% of the time she's going to be right. So she has a younger brother who's sent away, but for a completely different reason. He was struggling with alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and he was also gay. And in the South, where this book takes place, it's not really normal, taboo, not really talked about. It's seen as a sin. Welcome to the damn Bible Belt. To navigate a complicated love triangle situation with her brother's sponsor, Sam Penny, which brings in this halo. It is full of a bunch of pennies. Georgia and her family have to go to the reading of her father's will, where they discover that something is left to another person they never heard anything about. A little backstory about the dad: he did not support his son in being gay, any of that stuff. So as they're trying to uncover who this person is about the will, they learn stuff completely new about their dad that I think the dad should have been more loving and understanding. It probably would have saved a lot of trauma and heartache, but Georgia has to delve into her father's past and uncover a lot of buried secrets. I gave this book a 5-star. This was so good. I think anything Jessa writes has such a great underlining tone of it that makes you just gravitate towards it and want to read anything and everything she's written. I love that this was set in South Carolina because that's where I'm from, so it was just like a little homage to being home, and kind of the side characters, background characters, understanding exactly where their attitudes come from because I live here, I witness it. But this was a 5-star read. I enjoyed it so fucking much. I recommend this book to everybody. I mean, you know that I loved the Shatter Me series, so once I saw this book come out, I was ready to dive headfirst back into that world. The book we are talking about is Watch Me. This is book 1 of like a spin-off series that takes place after 20-30 years in the future. We have our 2 main characters, Rosabelle and James. Rosabelle is a trained assassin to work for the Reestablishment, and James infiltrates Ark Island where the Reestablishment is. James is Aaron Warner's half-brother. Sit with that. We learn about Rosabelle. She has a sick sister that she is the sole care provider of, and James' presence on that island threatens her and her sister's life. It makes Rosabelle have to confront where her loyalties exactly lie. Is it with the Reestablishment or is it with her sister? Struggle of free will within a society that is still trying to recover from the Reestablishment from eons ago. So it was so nice to get little snippets of Juliet, Aaron, Adam, Kenji throughout this book. I'm really excited to see where the series leads. I enjoyed this one so much. I thought it was so good. It was not a 5-star for me personally. I ended up giving this a 3.75 stars, which is still good. I would still recommend it. Next book needs no introduction. If you follow me on any other social media platform, you know that this book odd tier series for me. I will ride or die for this series. I don't care what anyone else has to say about the series or this author. It is engraved in a special place in my heart that I don't think another book will ever fill. So I'm so happy this is an ongoing series, and it's just, we're gonna be talking about Releasing 10 by Chloe Walsh. Now, before reading this, I was absolutely terrified because obviously I've seen the discourse online. This is just child abuse. It's so graphic. It's just blah, 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 blah. Whatever people may say. And to that I say, if you don't like it, don't read it. No one put a gun to your head and told you you needed to read all of this. If you didn't like it, put it down, step away. It is what it is. I, however, feel like it was very necessary because this stuff happens. It didn't act this way for Taming 7, where the same topics are pretty much discussed, just not in as much detail, which I don't think there was a lot of detail. It was just very consistent in this book, as in the abuse our main character Lizzie went through happened a lot, where in Taming 7 it happened over the course of a couple years, where it's like 7 to 13 I believe, and Lizzie was a lot longer than that. We follow Lizzie Young and Hugh Biggs in this story. This really dives in to their childhood. So this would be the first book in the timeline order of the Boys and Common series, but it is the 6th book that she put out. So we meet Lizzie as she's young, and just granted, this is the first time we're knowing Lizzie. All we know from her is that she has outbursts, she's mean, she's cruel, and she just doesn't really give a fuck what anyone has to say. So this really gives you an insight to her brain. So we see Lizzie from a very young age not speaking, struggling with a lot of things, and we learn that from early on she was diagnosed with a bipolar disorder. I'm also underlining trauma that's not really discussed in this book, as in the parents moved around quite a bit. The mom has cancer, her sister hates her, her dad doesn't like her. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this book that shouldn't happen to a child, that shouldn't be taken out on a child, but it really gives you an insight onto how Lizzie was raised and why she acts the way she acts. Huey Biggs, who is probably the smartest kid out of the entire friend group. He is so like wise beyond his years. He stands his ground. He loves with all of his heart, and he wants everything to be okay for everybody else. Explores their connection from a very early age, as I said, from like the school bus that evolves into something powerful. Is like them speaking about getting married to each other when they were like 6 to 9 years old, and just how their love has grown. And obviously we're releasing 10, so we learn what happens as they get older and why Hugh and Lizzie are no longer together in the books previous to this. I recommend this series with everything in my heart. If it is something you want to dive into, please check your trigger warnings and know that any hate about this book is very unnecessary, because Chloe Walsh had to come online and pretty much say that this book is her story, and to be forced to say something like that when maybe you weren't ready to is kind of heartbreaking. So check your trigger warnings. If you don't want to read it, you don't have to. However, this is a 5-star book for me. This will probably be my book of the year. That's how it's lining up to be for me. 5 stars. I love this book with every ounce of my heart. I have a new love for Huey and Liz, and I'm really excited to see where this takes us. I'm really excited to see their relationship hopefully bring them back together, and hopefully a lot of change on Lizzie's side, because she did hurt Huey a lot. 2 books are by the same author. If you watched my last video, you know I recently went to an author signing for Ashley Poston for her new release Sounds Like Love, which I have right here. The book follows Joni Lark. She is a songwriter who moved to Los Angeles to kind of obviously help her career grow. But she's starting to struggle with creative blocks and emotional turmoil because her mother was diagnosed with dementia, and just kind of understanding that her time with her mother is very limited. So she returns to her hometown in North Carolina, which is called Vienna Shores, kind of hoping being back in that family homegrown like environment will help break her burnout, essentially is what she's calling it. It's her burnout, like she can't write, she finds nothing inspirational. And then she, as in any Ashley Poston book, and her magic realism, has a voice in her head, an actual voice of Sebastian Fell, who we meet early on in this book, and he's kind of a jackass to her. And just knowing, obviously as you get to the end of this book, you realize how intertwined these two people were. I'm going to tell you why they can hear each other's thoughts, but also with adding Ashley Poston books, she puts rules on the magic. So unless these two people are thinking about each other, they don't have just free access to those thoughts. So I can't just be sitting here thinking about my job and then something's going to be in my head. I have to be thinking about them or something like that for them to reconnect into my brain. I gave this a 3.75 stars. I think it's so cute. The only thing that really threw me off is I listened to this on audiobook, and like the first couple minutes of the book someone's singing to me, and I was like, oh, I don't like singing in books, but I love this book. I love Ashley Poston's writing. It was amazing, and I'm so grateful I got to meet her and get this book, and I just love her so much. Next Ashley Poston book is a novel love story. I had this one fully bedazzled, and it is annotated as well. I did get this signed. It's about Eileen. She's in the town of her favorite romance book. How exciting is that? Sign me up. Her sister tragically passed away, so she doesn't really understand until somebody tells her, like, no, like you're in the story. Don't, like, no one here knows that they're in a book. Like, this is their life. So she decides to kind of help keep the story moving per se and keep the pages turning. She's there to try to help all the characters find their happily ever after. But she's trying to navigate the familiar characters. She meets Anders, a bookstore owner. However, she can't recall in reading the series that this author wrote any mention of him besides a dedication that says like to AS or something like that, so his initials. But she just imagined that he was going to be a later on book that tragically the author passed away, so she couldn't write it. Anders is a grubby bookstore owner that she almost rants over in the rain. I love this book with all my heart. It is probably one of my favorite Ashley Poston books I ever read. Recommend it as always with any Ashley Poston book. This is also a 5-star read for me. I love it so much. Getting into kind of a dark romantasy, I was kind of in the mood for one, and all my coworkers told me about the series and that they actually really started to enjoy it, and I have FOMO, so I decided to start picking it up. And the first book I read was Guild by Raven Kennedy. It was the story of Arin, a young woman who was rescued from a harsh life, and then she's transformed into like essentially a golden person. It is a King Midas retelling, if you're familiar with him. He possesses the power to turn things gold. She lives within like a cage, if you'll see it on the cover. Like, she is kept in a cage like a golden canary to keep her protected and loved. Midas has a lot of saddles. It's what she's also referred to as a saddle, who basically just sex slaves, and he doesn't touch her. But a war threatened the kingdom, and then some things happen, and Orin's perception of King Midas kind of shifts. Orin has to confront truths about Midas as she learns more, and just how manipulative he can be. But in all else, she just believes that he loves her and only her, even though he does have a queen and all the other saddles. Like, she believes her. Like, this was such a good first book in a series, because sometimes they really lack and like the first book's not good at all, and that really hinders me on wanting to continue to pick up the series. I listened to this on audio, and the moment it was over, I started the next book immediately. I was hooked. I gave this book a 4.25 stars. Staying in the Plated Prisoner series, the second book is Glint, and it was honestly kind of better than the first book in my opinion. Obviously still about Orin. She's captured by the Fourth Kingdom's army, and she's fallen victim to a whole new side of captivity, if you will. She is being held captive by Commander Rip and the Fourth Kingdom's army. She's really terrified of them because they're ruthless. She begins to question Midas's true nature as she spends more time with Commander Rip and his army. She starts to realize through conversations that Midas needs her power more than he actually needs her and wants to like love her, and that's starting to click in her brain. So Commander Rip, something about Orin is she has these ribbons on her back that she can move. So once she meets Commander Rip, she kind of pieces together that he is a fae, and so is she. Spoiler alert. Just he senses it, and he really pushes her to embrace that side of her, because obviously no one else does. This book, we find her back with King Midas and being forced back into her cage, and that's when she starts to kind of speak up for herself and realize that she doesn't need to be kept in captivity, and she doesn't need anyone else to take care of her. Like, she's a strong woman on her own. And I haven't started the third book in this series yet, and I'm just, there's so many books for me to read, but this was also a 5-star book. I thought the banter of it was good. I think her coming together with the other saddles that were also captive was good. I'm starting to really enjoy this series. I'm really excited to get back into it. So as I said, 5 stars. The next book I read it on my Kindle because it was an ARC and also a beta. So I beta read for this author, and then I received the ARC for this book after changes were made, and that is Protect Home by Indy Valentine. This is a baseball romance. It has enemies to lovers. It has surprise pregnancy. The man is obsessed. Forced proximity. They both help each other in different ways. Black cat, golden retriever. It is so freaking good. We have our female main character, Tinley, and our main male character, August. It was such a heart-hitting, slow burn romance in like the best possible way. I was hooked from like the first chapter of this book. Even when I beta read it, and reading the ARC version of it made it like so much better. It has sharp banter. It has gut-punching emotion. After this book, I teared up about this book. I read like certain scenes multiple times just because like I love these characters. I love Indy Valentine's writing. If I could bottle her up and just have her write every single book that I love and put her twist on it. Into emotionally raw characters, see me build up, and a one-night stand, heartbreak with hope, protective heroes and feast heroines, small town setting. Protect Home will ruin your TBR in the best possible way. I can't wait for the next book in the Atlanta Boys series. I can't wait for the next Indy Valentine book, period. I already miss them. I miss the boys. I miss the girls. I miss... Ugh. If you couldn't guess, it was a 5-star. I love it. The next two books are getting into like our darker romance taboo area. So I finished The Web of Silence duet, and this is the second book, Little Liar. It follows Malachi, who's defined by his intense forbidden love for Olivia, who's his adopted sister. Like, she was adopted by the same family and he was adopted, like both adopted into the same family, but they're not related at all. It explores their relationship. Obviously it's a taboo romance, so there is trauma, obsession. They have to navigate the world of their family, their own internal struggles. This book kind of goes more into depth of Malachi's past than we saw in Little Stranger, which I really enjoyed, knowing why we get the Malachi we get, if that makes sense. Understand from those events why he has this such like intense connection with Olivia and his violent tendencies when he perceives that she's in danger, directly as where Little Stranger left off. It was good. I enjoy Malachi and I enjoy Olivia. However, this was like a 3.75 stars. I liked it. It was a lot thicker than the first book. Is it my favorite taboo romance I've ever read? No, but it was still good. So 3.75 stars. Me is a forbidden romance. Go ahead, give it to me. King of Envy, which is the 5th book in the Kings of Sin series by Anna Huang. This follows Vuk and Anya. Vuk is a billionaire. Anya is a supermodel. Anya is engaged to Vuk's best friend, but that engagement is an engagement of convenience where Vuk's best friend, her fiance, Anya gets engaged to Jordan to help him get a trust fund that he has to get once he gets married. Model, so she's trying to use the money that Jordan's promising her to kind of leave that agency and kind of make a name for herself, branch out. But then we meet Vuk. He is secretly in love with Anya. He's trying to grasp how he feels while dealing with some bad guys from his past. This follows them as they're navigating secrets, falling in love with each other essentially, while trying to figure out if and how they can be together and how that will include Jordan. Luke and Anya spend more time together. Obviously their attraction intensifies, leading to the forbidden romance of this book, dealing with obviously the past trauma, the dangerous society that he's a part of. So he's trying to deal with that while also keeping Anya safe. And does that happen? No, but then it gets resolved, obviously. It's definitely like my favorite in the Kings of Sin series so far. I gave this a 4.25. The last book I read in the month of July is a recently published Hermione book. I love Hermione books. I think they're so fun. If y'all have any Hermione recs, go ahead and drop them down below. Rose and Chains by Julie Soto, which non-published version is called The Auction. Bryony Rosewood, she's the Princess of Evermore, whose world shattered when her kingdom fell to the Bombardi forces. Slytherin, Voldemort type thing. There was the prophesized hero, so he was supposed to go into this war and end it. That's what the prophecy was telling them. Obviously it didn't happen, so Bryony and the other survivors are auctioned off as heartstrings, as heart springs, which is like a magical conduit that the Bombardis use. Like, so Bombardis use heart magic and the Evermores use like brain magic, if that makes sense. Probably not. Bryony is purchased by Tovin Draco, powerful member of the Bombardi family, and they have to navigate this new reality where she is a prisoner and a pawn in a larger political game. It's forbidden romance, as like Bryony and Tovin's past relationship at their old school clashes with who they are now as people. I am so happy that the world is getting more Hermione books published. Obviously we have Bryony and Tovin, not Hermione and Draco, but it's fine. But I loved The Auction. I thought this was such a good redo of it. Obviously things had to get cut out and changed. I gave this a 4.75 stars. Alright, you guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me for today. I'm sorry if it's a longer video. I just wanted to share what I've been up to so you guys don't think I'm just lollygagging behind the scenes. In 3 months, we've read 12 books, which obviously isn't great, but I'm starting to get back into the swing of things. I'm starting to find fun in reading again. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to leave a comment down below if you've read any of these books or if they're on your TBR, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!